Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Gin and Tonic Show. I'm your host, Almighty Atheismo. Joining me is Stopspamming, Ali of Arab Atheist Broadcasting, DPR on his Magic Sandwich show account, and Klingschor. Although Klingschor may be leaving soon, he has a wedding to attend. I don't know why I just told you his business, as you didn't really need to know. If you'd like to join us to discuss the topic of the day, which doesn't exist because we didn't think of one, just send a Skype contact request to the Gin and Tonic Show. Please do not call into the show. We'll call you. Remember to mute and minimize your blog TV or shut it off altogether so you don't hear everything twice. And everyone who calls in, if anyone calls in, they are advised that this is being recorded for later upload on YouTube and is being streamed live over blog TV. So, oh boy. We thought we'd just have a general chat. The next show that we're going to do is going to be on the Crusades, and we're doing some preparation for that, and want to make sure that all our ducks in a row for that episode. So this week, since we postponed that one, we're just going to have a general chat. Callers can talk, and panelists alike can talk about whatever they wish. So I'm just going to kick it off with some current affairs, and then just say it's kind of a depressing time to be the host of a show about Islam in the Middle East, given that everything. I mean, where do you start? Where do you start with everything that's going wrong? I
know where to start.
Huh? Go for it.
Mohammed Morsi calling Jews sons of pigs and monkeys.
And yet he says he agrees to an armistice with Israel, doesn't he?
He does. He actually tried to. He went to Germany. I forgot exactly when, but he tried to pull off. Oh, it was out of context, and they just didn't buy it at all. It was so obvious. Like, there's no other context that you can have at all. I mean, it's pretty clear what you were saying, man, and it didn't work, obviously. So I guess we could start it there. So now you have the president of an ally country like Egypt, for instance, because that's who he's the president of, calling Jews sons of pigs and monkeys. How's that for moderate Islam, huh?
Well, that's canonical, though, isn't it?
It is, in fact, canonical, which just makes it so much better.
He got back how much heat he caught. He's like, "Why did you back off the pigs and monkey things? That's legit." You know, I mean, well, I'm surprised that he doesn't have a more hostile aggressive towards the state of Israel, but. I don't know. I'm so accustomed to the whole to a lot of the ranting. I think we're all suffering from a little bit of outrage fatigue at this point. But yeah, it surprises me that he there was that matter of the letter that was read that he allegedly sent to Israeli leadership saying. That we can live and let live, and that caused outrage. Everything causes outrage.
I look at like the political scene here in the States, and I hear all these people like making excuses for, the Muslim Brotherhood, they're moderates and blah blah blah. And this is so going to turn around and bite us in the ass. I mean, honestly, do you think that a guy who thinks it appropriate to have himself recorded saying this type of thing is really a good person to make a good relationship with? I think not. I think that at best he will conveniently say stuff about how they can be friends with Israel for now, and as soon as they can get out of it, they will. And so I think it's funny how, because the United States thinks they can get stuff done with these guys for right now, they're willing to make political cover for the Muslim Brotherhood and throw under the bus people like the Christians and the secularists and all that for now, and it's so going to come back and bite them in the ass, without a doubt.
None of them is very clever. I mean, look at what Israel is doing. If they're going ahead and hiring Muslims as soccer players, and then there's huge outrage about that. So I think neither party, neither side is very good when it comes to diplomacy. Sorry?
Outrage. So the Israeli national team has Muslim?
No. There's an Israeli soccer team which has bought or rented or whatever some soccer player who is the Muslim. So the place was torched.
What? What? Well, by whom?
Nobody knows yet.
Well, but there must be some group. Is it Orthodox Jews throwing a fit? Or
I have only seen what has happened. Nobody has claimed anything, not that I know of. I just saw the facts. I saw that this is what happened. And I thought to myself, yeah, you stupid idiots. Neither side can get to grips with reality and just leave it.
Never was a Molotov more justly hurled than in the middle of soccer dispute.
Exactly. I mean, it's so stupid.
Well, I mean, it's a nice change of pace. Well, I was about to say it was a nice change of pace from the religious violence that there was soccer-related violence, but it's now. Oh my goodness, this truly, maybe this really is the end times. When there are combination religious soccer riots, I'm pretty sure that is alone to just destabilize the region once and for all.
I thought it's the opposite. I really think that everybody should be fighting their way through the Olympics or something, and not via guns.
Yeah, combination fanatic hooligans. Fanaligans.
Yeah, but I think that
politics.
The United States should really heed the warning of making friends with Egypt right now.
What can we?
I think it's time for sanctions and fighter planes flying missions over Suez.
I
think it's time. Drone, whatever, just throw it at them. Who gives a shit? Whatever it is you have in your arsenal that causes you the least pain, you should use it against Egypt right now. And it's my country, and I'm willing to say that.
Yeah, but what's it going to change?
Yeah, I think that the government has the same response that a lot of us on the panel, that I personally, I was just outrage fatigue. It's like, whatever, close enough.
Could I pick you up on that, Almighty, if I may?
Please.
Because we were talking before the show started about the Arab Spring and how, particularly in relation to the events that are taking place in Tunisia,
please don't put that.
What?
that it's turned from a bright spring to a miserable autumn and a bitter cold winter. But one thing you said, and this is what I'd like you to comment on, if you would. You said, yeah, well, it's what I said was going to happen all the time. Now, I wasn't aware of that, but we didn't have a chance to expand on that before the show started.
I said, I think I said something like, I don't even have the heart to say I told you so, but that wasn't that I predicted the current status quo. More like you know, as a critic of religion, I would always be warning people, don't base your society on friggin' religion. You know, it's not a good basis. So in that sense, I'm in a position to say I told you so. Although, I mean, I'll be the first to say, the Arab, especially as regards the Arab Spring, nothing is turning out as I originally would have.
Can we stop calling it the Arab Spring? Can we call it like Arab nuclear winter or just something disastrous? Because
Ali,
I think
you watch,
honestly,
you watch The Simpsons, right?
Sometimes. I haven't watched it for a while.
They had a Halloween. I was telling DPR that we need to start calling it the Arabs March, after that one Halloween special where they had the wrong calendars, and they said it was the 13th hour of the 13th day of the 13th month, and then they walk by the calendar and it says Smarch. I think that's what the news should rebrand it, the Arab Smarch. It's just something that shouldn't be.
Yeah, but you need to explain this every time. This is the disadvantage of that.
Well, people need to watch goddamn Simpsons.
The Arab Bizarro Spring, or Spring in Australia, something like that.
Bizarrism.
It's really, I mean, my penchant for gallows humor notwithstanding, it's all just depressing. It's I mean, because, you know, a lot of everyone was hoping that some room for positive reform or change would be opened by this, and by everyone. I mean, everyone from the most liberal to the most conservative, everyone. I guess was just salivating over the prospect of that, power vacuum. When, you know, I think a cursory history lesson will teach us how dangerous that can really be.
But you just said, Almighty, that you thought it was a mistake to base your politics on religion. Are you blaming religion in it entirely for all the problems that are still extant? Entirely
is a strong word, but mostly. I mean, let's face it.
Well, I am. As of right now, I would say that 90% of Egypt's problems are based on religious rule or religion and politics. There is no other way to explain what's going on right now. Basically, what's happening is that the ruling party, every time somebody opposes them with anything, they just say, "Oh, these people are against Islam," blah blah blah, and they take the righteous road, and obviously the liberals and all those guys, that's not going to wash with them because, well, for one thing, most of them are actually Muslims. And so, I mean, if you take away, just think about it this way, okay? It's going to take years to get rid of these guys, and there's going to be blood on the streets for years to come. It took 18 days to get rid of Mubarak. What's the only difference between that autocratic rule and this autocratic rule? It's the religion. That's the problem. Yeah. Plus, you have to start looking at things like, for instance, what's going on in Tunisia today. Imams and sheikhs put out a fatwa against the secularist opposition. One of them is assassinated. Now Tunis is on fire. And I would not. I mean, I'm thinking that within the next 2 months we're going to start hearing about assassinations of secularists in Egypt as well. And so, I mean, it's hard to say that this is not based on religion when imams are on TV putting fatwas on secularist leaders' heads and their death is causing riots in the streets. It's hard to see how, I mean, you could say that religion is being used in politics, but it's certainly religion, I mean, in a big way.
I think there are times when it's impossible to distinguish between the two. That is to say, religion and politics, they're very interwoven, aren't they?
Yeah, but what is the basis here? I think that it's a religious drive which is getting the people in, which is saying we are self-righteous and we have every reason to be because we are based in religion. So it is Allah who is giving us the justification for the things that we are doing. Look at what, I mean, the people, the first reaction when the Muslims went crazy in Mali was, we are recovering the Muslim land, and now the French are going in and attacking the Muslim land. That was the first reaction. So it's always religion-based, the same as the case in Syria. They are saying we have the justification and we're only doing the job that we are supposed to do, and we are only doing what is right. So they don't see any wrong in that. And this is why I see that religion is 99% to blame for this, which is being abused by political powers and by trying to instrumentalize it and use it as a political power.
You guys hear about Obama overriding all his advisors and staff on arming the Syrian rebels? I have gained respect for Obama now, because that man, huh?
No, so he's in favor?
No, he would not supply arms because he feared that it would get into the hands of terrorists, and he's absolutely right. Honestly, yep. if I were the United States right now, I would start supporting the government because yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. At this point, it's a mix of Al-Qaeda and some other unsavory characters that are fighting the government. And you say what you want about Assad, he's not a religious zealot. And well, I think you cannot say the same for the opposition.
I think that there's just no turning back. You know, who knows what will happen in the aftermath? It just seems like there's no good options. But you know, it seems like we were all arguing the exact opposite point years back, and that was, you know, we need to stop. We need to stop supporting so and such and such. We need to, you know, stop procrastinating when it comes to reform in these places, and stop being afraid of what will happen after they're gone. But I mean, in Syria, that's just asking too much to leave Assad in charge after all that he's done.
It started out okay, but now, I mean, after how many videos of people being beheaded because they're Shiites or Alawites?
Yeah.
I mean, do you then say, okay, well, wait a minute. I don't like Assad, but I don't want these people. Are you kidding me? I mean, they're literally using like dull knives to cut people's throats, and they're recording it and proudly posting it everywhere.
Okay.
Well, so what is the motivation?
Every single time without fail, the chanting is this Rafidi, which is a derogatory term used against Shiites. I mean, that is what they're saying. I mean, well, it is obviously sectarian in a religious way,
yeah.
in a religious
excuse me, you can't have sectarian in a religious way.
No. Well, anyway, okay, how about this? We'll give them aid, and in exchange, they need to start sharpening their knives.
What is the motivation that's driving Assad?
The entire Middle East problem.
I mean,
but what is Assad trying to do?
That's how bad things have gotten. Really, that's a net human rights progression.
I think Assad is just trying to avoid a Gaddafi ending. Really,
well,
you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is if he doesn't get strung up by the rebels, if there were any justice in the world, the guy'd get hit by a bolt of lightning or something. I mean, I can't. Maybe there's some. Well, there's a lot of legitimate reason to be anxious about what'll happen once the Syrian regime is gone altogether, but. I can't do it. I can't ever give even tacit approval to Assad. I mean, he's just gone way too far.
Well, I mean, I guess I am a little bit biased because the amounts of death threats that I'm getting from Syria
really?
has just gone through the roof. It's after Assad, we're gonna slit your throat. It's like, yeah, I can't support these people. I don't care what Assad is doing.
What has Assad been doing over the last, let's say, 5 years? Is there anything positive that has happened in Syria?
He's just been butchering his population.
That's why I asked, is there anything positive that he's done in the last 5 years?
No, I don't even think he makes the trains run on time. And that's the only thing that usually the strongman does well.
The only positive thing that Assad has been doing is he's not been the rebels.
Yeah.
To me, that is really it. Honestly, I mean, if we had the option, I would just get rid of them both, and
Yeah, but hang on, I remember when he was elected.
It's going to be difficult to do that.
I remember when he got elected, he was the reformer. He was the smart guy. He was the guy who was going to take Syria into the future, into the modern future.
I think you have him confused with someone else. He just inherited the position from his father.
He inherited it. I thought when he came in, he was elected. Okay, then it's not an election process, but I remember the speeches that he gave, and I thought to myself, hey, here's a smart guy. He can really make some changes. I actually thought he was elected.
No. It's a dynasty, oligarchy with a familial dynasty at its center. Yeah, this guy's been on. I mean, this guy's been on Charlie Rose and other talk shows, and he's just very chatty and. Yeah, he wore a progressive face, or at least a face that was palatable to people outside of the world of hardline dictators or Islamists. But yeah, when push came to shove, he just gunned down his own people. I mean, artillery strikes against people just shaking their fists. It's just, people, snipers just randomly popping people's heads off. It's just the most gratuitous display imaginable. And you look at the Syrian uprising is about 2 years old, a little bit less, and already the casualties are they look like they might give the Iraq War with all of that violence over.
The latest figures I heard were 140,000, but that might be scaled down a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard much lower, but I mean, anyway, it's a lot of the rate at which people are dying is so much faster that it looks set to overtake Iraq, and Iraq was once. I mean, it's in a weird way, the U.S. has it can sort of salve some of its wounds. You know, the horror we feel when we looked at Iraq and realized what we had helped to bring about there in terms of the security situation deteriorating, the inflammation of the sectarian tensions, which had these people killing each other back and forth. Now it looks like that would have happened sooner or later. We were just dumb enough to trigger it prematurely, but it seemed like with both of the Ba'athist nations that an implosion was going to happen, and it was only a matter of time. Although I'd hate to think what had happened if Saddam Hussein was still in power and the Iraqi population tried to surge against him the way the Syrian population surging against Assad, because Hussein just seemed like he was that much more heavy-handed, using gas and whatnot. There's no good options. I mean, I'm not a very good internet smartass, because if you're going to come on the internet, you got to pretend like you have all the answers, and just in one fell swoop, in one podcast, to solve all the issues. But I really don't even know anymore. I don't know what advice I would give. I don't know what course of action I'd take these days. It sounds like there's nothing but bad options.
I learned from the Shah, because the Shah went overboard, and I thought people learned what to do and what not to do, but it seems it doesn't work that way.
No,
well,
I think if anybody's going to take any...
I'm terribly sorry. One option I was going to suggest is just leave these countries to sort it out for themselves.
Yeah.
Yes and
Yeah,
no.
the problem
This is what is good. What happened in Syria, that nobody in Syria actually intervened, because I was afraid that there was going to be an intervention there, and this was going to be a non-stop thing again. So I'm quite happy they didn't, but I'm also sorry, because it's ongoing and it's causing a lot of misery for people. But I don't know if anybody would have been able to stop it.
You know what, DVR? It reminds me of. Has anyone here read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I have not, sadly.
There's a race of aliens in that book called the Silastic Armor Fiends of Striterax, and they're the most aggressive race known to the spacefaring peoples. And they said that the best way to defeat the Silastic Armor Fiends of Striterax is just to lock one of them in a room by himself, and sooner or later he'll beat himself up. Jay,
I think it's going to take...
Yeah. Jay, welcome.
Go ahead.
No. I was just trying to introduce Jay. Welcome to the show, Jay. What do you have for us today? And then I won't forget your comment, Oli. We'll get to you.
You are discussing about Syria and Tunis and how the religion is involved in politics. Syria, someone asked about Bashar and how it's come to be present. He's not a smart guy. Even the real control in Syria was called the old group. That's the group from few men. It's old from his father's time. So these people control Syria. Actually, Bashar is just a sweet picture, put it in front people, not more, not less. Actually, the situation in Syria, in my opinion, I almost agree with Ali, because in this time I saw a lot of video. There is so violence, radical Islam, Al-Qaeda and others try to control everything in Syria revolution. I agree. In the first place, I support this revolution strongly. But now, after all of that, I find if you West give them the weapon that they asking for, that will be dangerous situation after Bashar, because we need to ask this: what after Bashar? Oh, there is drama. I know there is humanity drama here. Everyone say how we can not support them, but on the other hand, how I can support someone won't hang and kill everyone else, not Sunni, or not even radical, or not even support radical Islam. How I can support those people by weapon? I can support them by aid. I can support them. The people need, like children, through UNICEF, not through Islamic organization. I can support like this, but I cannot agree with the idea that give them the weapon and let them destroy Bashar. The question is there: what after Bashar, and how you can control the weapon after Bashar, and what will happen there in the ground, and what about the other ethnicities like Christian or Kurdi or Shi'i or others. All of this question West should put on the table, in my opinion. What do you think, guys?
Well,
I think we should arm the Kurds. Arm the Kurds and let the Kurds rule as autocrats. First off, they've had a really bad deal for a really long time. By the way, if anybody's going to take anything away from the show is, don't listen to anybody on these issues, because nobody has any idea what they're talking about, including me. So going back to my fantasy, I think that if we arm the Kurds, right, they've been incredibly oppressed, and why not? Nothing else has worked. Let's arm those guys and let them take over. I think maybe that's a good idea, but I don't know, whatever.
But now, is any of this religiously motivated, either side?
Wait,
Yes, of course.
In which case?
Go ahead.
In Syria.
Oh, yeah.
Is Assad in any way religiously motivated? Are the rebels in any way religiously? Is there any Muslim Brotherhood or something involvement here?
It has become, whether it was originally, it has become almost strictly along religious lines. There's factions within factions within factions, but it seems that the majority of the people involved in the conflict nowadays are either framing it in terms of sectarian, as a sectarian situation, or at least acknowledging that is increasingly the case.
Yeah, it's Sunnis against the Kurds, the Christians, the Alawites. Basically, all the minorities have banded together, and now they're all fighting the Sunnis. At least the way I see it. I don't see any minorities going over to the rebel, quote unquote, side. It seems like it's just a bunch of Al-Qaeda terrorist types against the rest of the communities in Syria.
Well, I mean, but is it originally the way it was, I guess, marketed was that it was a populist uprising because of the brutality of the regime, and there were hardline Islamists and AQ-friendly forces that were tagging along, and that the mainstream rebels just didn't want their house divided, so they let the hardliners do their thing. But you're saying that from your perspective, the hardline influence is just by far stronger, or are they just, or is it one of those cases where they're just a little bit noisier when it comes to trying to grab the microphone and be the mouthpiece of the rebels? I wonder.
You ask about brotherhood in Syria. There is brotherhood in Syria, and the coalitions there outside Syria even. There is strong brotherhood involved. they have our agenda as a brotherhood, and they are so active political, and they have a strong part. Of course, the motivation is religion. You know, everywhere brotherhood present, motivation, religion will be present too. There is no doubt about that.
Okay.
Well,
if you look at it at the beginning, the minorities actually were hesitant to join the rebels. It was mostly Sunnis. I mean, Syria is majority Sunni. But lately it has been everybody against the Sunnis because of what is perceived and factual on the ground, that there is a bunch of bearded Al-Qaeda types slitting people's throats and putting it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean,
and to expound on what to answer further what Stop was asking about, you have to understand there's all these different forces funding and equipping and arming all along the Sunni-Shia divide, and there are many power players in the Sunni sphere who see this as a way to get back at the Shia for Iraq, because you had Iraq, which was a Sunni-dominated Ba'athist clique in a Shia-majority nation. Oh, who did we lose? Can you all still hear me? I think
I can.
it says there's a problem with the call. Can people in okay, looks like, oh well. It says there's a problem, but I don't see with who. At any rate. So yeah, you had Shia majority Iraq, which is now, you know, largely governed by Shia, since they're, you know, the Sunni-dominated Ba'athists were kicked out. So this was seen as an encroachment by Iranian and Shia interests. So now you have the Sunni who see the Alawite Shia-backed Ba'athists in Syria. So this is a chance to kick them back. It's a little bit like you know, like the U.S. Jumping for joy at the difficulties that the Soviet Union encountered in Afghanistan, while we were still licking our wounds from the difficulties we had in Vietnam. You know what I mean? It's this the whole region is this chessboard between people moving funds and equipment all over. But yeah, this is an opportunity for the Sunni to kind of strike back and push back a border, and then they get a territory, so to speak, of their own. But I mean, like Ali was saying, there's so many different people, and it's so convoluted with so many people with different interests. And then, of course, sooner or later, you're forced to band together into some sort of a coalition against what seems like a tide of your enemies. I mean, it's just a complete mess. It's just a complete
but somehow the people are still making money out of this.
Oh well.
By the way, I think DPR made a comment earlier about letting these countries work it out for themselves. I just wanted to I mean, regardless of everything we've just said about how ridiculously complicated everything is and how hard it is to see through, just keep in mind that what happens in Syria will not stay in Syria. What happens in Egypt will not stay in Egypt. And so you can do nothing if you want, but be prepared to have this stuff brought to you, okay, because it's not going to stay there. And so, you know, it's easy to say, well, let's just not do anything. But later on, there's going to be more problems that we can handle. And I guarantee you that.
Jay, are you from one of those countries? Oh, I wanted to know.
I'm not sure she's with us at the moment, but let me address Ali Ali's point very briefly. It's not just me that says that. It's actually part of the Statute of the United Nations. The idea of self-determination is one of the very strong principles that they hold to, and they will not interfere with the internal fightings of a country until...
That's why interfere in Bosnia.
Because, I was going to say, until it becomes a stage where it starts affecting the international peace and security, which is actually the expression that is used in their charter. And the intervention in Bosnia was to prevent genocide and to maintain peace and order. And until it gets to that sort of point, the United Nations is very reluctant to interfere. That's why, although the rebels have been recognized by certain European governments as the body representing Syria at the moment, at this stage, they are still only giving them sort of tacit support and maybe assisting them in the future with arms and the like, but they're basically letting the country self-determine, which I think is a sound policy.
Okay, so I've run into a new caller who hopefully will take us from tragedy to comedy, because he wants to talk about Hamza Tzortzis' new paper. Welcome to the show, Abhishek.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Pretty good, thanks for your call.
So I read his paper, and after I finished, I noticed that this is a classic example of how people really misunderstand science. Yeah.
He misunderstand. He doesn't know how to spell science.
Yeah.
Really?
Because
is that
even the philosophical aspect of it, I mean, he sort of reduces science to purely empiricism, which is not, it really isn't. You know, you have a lot of mathematical modeling, hypothesis building, etc. But what really struck me is that he seems to take science and mold it into the image of his own religion. So he asks us questions like, why can't science explain moral truths or explain mathematics? Because it's not supposed to, right?
Yeah. Why can't?
I think he's just watching way too much William Lane Craig. I actually think that's a problem with all Muslims that do this type of debating. They watch way too much William Lane Craig and don't bother to look at the answers.
Well, I'd very much like to hear Stopspamming's views on Hamza, because I think he's been fairly mute on Hamza. Stop, what are your opinions of him?
Did you just hear me vomit or what? No, I mean, he's a total fucktard. He's a total idiot. I mean, why do you think I call him Hamza the liar, Tzortzis? I have proven so many times that he lies, he deceives, I mean, he is such a low, despicable human. It is absolutely frightening. Okay, I finished the video on his paper like an hour ago. I'm going to upload it later. It's horrendous. It's terrible. It's awful. I do not know why anybody pays any attention to him, because all you need to do is listen to 5 minutes and you know that there is absolutely nothing that makes any sense. So, yeah.
And I just want to add, I sort of agree with Stop, but I don't think he's probably not that disingenuous, just ignorant, I guess. But the problem with induction and the problem with causality has actually been answered about 200 years ago by Immanuel Kant. But I guess he hasn't caught on.
Yeah.
Could I just ask, because I'm ignorant, I've not read it. What points is he advancing in this? I would use the word paper, but that gives it some sort of credence in these scribblings.
He uses all the isms that you can imagine. There's scientism. There's a whole lot of nonsense. The whole paper consists only of one thing, and that is names. All he does is at the back, he has 1.5 pages of references, which are referring to 2 or 3 liners in the paper, and I think the whole paper is just there to drop as many names as possible. He takes excerpts from all sorts of people. What he relies heavily on is exactly what Abhishek is referring to, because he thinks that empiricism equals science. Scientism equals science. All he does is he just tries to discredit science to make it look unreliable. That's all he's doing. And by doing that, he thinks he's doing himself a favor by keeping his followers, who are paying for his upkeep at the end of the day, a favor by keeping them dumb. That's all he's doing.
But the punchline is he doesn't think that human beings evolved, or he doesn't think that anything evolved.
This is the whole point. He doesn't mention it. He says
in his paper about
evolution, but he doesn't mention evolution.
wait, in his paper about evolution, he doesn't go into evolution?
No, he does not mention evolution. There is one line on evolution. The rest is about just polemics. There is nothing on evolution in there.
But isn't the paper entitled something?
Wait, can you guys?
Yes, but he doesn't.
Wait, so wait, what's the title of the paper?
Has evolution been misunderstood?
And then it never talks. Literally, never talks. Does it? How many times?
Well, again,
No,
he
the
mentioned that.
word evolution comes in, but he doesn't address evolution. There's only one complete sentence where he addresses evolution, but that's it.
Stop. You said before that it's largely polemic, and what I would say is that polemic is not a bad thing in and of itself. I think that if you're making an argumentative, persuasive, essay purely to change someone's mind about like evolution, and to say that it's correct, I think that's fine because evolution is correct. So it isn't that it's polemic per se, it's that it's baseless polemic, or that it's polemic, unsubstantiated polemic. I think that's the distinction that ought to be made.
Okay, but Atheismo is actually pointing out the very crux of the matter. The paper is on has evolution been misunderstood. What would I, as a paying customer of IERA, expect? That somebody tells me what evolution is, what are the most most frequent misconceptions, what is the mistake that normally people make, how does the Quran address something like evolution, why is there a topic at the moment which is being discussed in the Muslim community regarding evolution. So I would go and deliver a factual representation of the status quo and then say, okay, this is what we find and this is why we recommend, because the Quran says this and this, this is how we think it should be solved. They don't do any of that. This is just using polemics just to make science look unreliable. This is why I'm using it.
Yeah, I mean, that is just such a wide swath that he cuts. It's not just the one theory. It's not. I mean, because we've tangled with so many different young Earth creationists on the Christian side, and usually, I would say usually the Christian anti-evolution crowd, they are a bit more tactical. They sort of roll up their sleeves. I mean, Nephilim Free, of course, is probably the most notorious of all, in that he will research the most obscure arguments that unless you're that can be surprisingly hard to counter. Even though when you hear him talk, you know he's regurgitating something out from sight, and you can already smell bullshit. But he'll be like, okay, well, fish fossils revealed to us because of these stumps and how they developed. And I mean, let's face it, if you're a layperson in the material, you have no idea what he's talking about either way. You just kind of smell something, for lack of a better word, fishy about it. But it seems like Hamza's not interested in doing either taking that route or doing that work. You know what I mean?
Well, I suspect, Almighty, one of the reasons may be that his first attempt at doing so, which was his inverted commas paper about embryology, was so heartily dismantled and disconstructed, and he was shown to be a complete arse, that perhaps he's learned a lesson from that and doesn't really want to talk about evolution.
This is the whole point. He repeats everything. I went and looked at his sources, his own sources, and I can refute his own paper using his own sources. The same thing is happening again.
Well, I read part of it, and he makes these statements like, well, we know that the Quran is infallible. And then other things like, how do we explain the linguistic miracle of the Quran? How do we? Yeah, and it's just it really
honestly can't.
Yeah, it burns. It burns every time he makes a statement or asks a question that starts with such heavily loaded presuppositions. It's just painful. I don't know.
Does it include the expression, well, first and foremost? And if so, how many times?
Abhishek, what is your general... Abhishek, what is your take on this?
Well, mostly it's just, like you guys said, it's polemic, and even though the philosophical side to it, it might be some point to it, but even then, he sort of misunderstands how science works. For example, in the in the problem of induction, if you guys are familiar with that, where
Yes.
you have a set amount of experiences, and you want to extrapolate that to a generality, and from that he takes in that you can't really do that, and therefore science is wrong. But science is based on falsification, not on absolutes, right? So something that's proven by experiment is proven to be accurate until it's falsified.
Well, he says there's no certainty, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they want absolute certainty. If you try to say that there are degrees of certainty, their eyes will just sort of gloss over. That's not their
certainty within a reasonable degree. Within a degree of reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
Beyond certainty, beyond reasonable doubt, rather.
Because there's no such thing as absolute certainty, right?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
And the funny thing is, he uses the philosophy of science has a foundation in explaining where science belongs. And he uses exactly this philosophy of science. Then he goes and he quotes something out of the scientific method, and then he goes and says the exact opposite, just 2 lines later. I mean, that to me is so pathetically stupid. It's amazing. Right. And I was wondering what Avishek has found on this from the philosophical, because you come from the philosophic viewpoint, right?
Yeah, I guess. Another thing is that near the end, he tells us that deduction is a more appropriate method to have certain quote unquote certain knowledge, but things that deduction is often the premise in deduction is almost sometimes a generalization of something you get from observation. For example, all men are mortal. That's a generalization from something you could actually directly experience or an observation. So, yeah, so I don't think he really understands.
An empirical observation.
Yeah, where he's going with this. This is very similar to what very early philosophers thought of as pure reason, where you could just deduct something about the world using just, I guess, armchair philosophy.
Okay, here's I just downloaded the PDF. This is just at the very beginning, the preamble or what have you.
Do you have the link that you can put in the chat, because I can't find the link?
Yes, just a moment. There you go. I'll also link it to people on the stream. Okay, hold on. There we go. Okay, so without further ado, it must be noted. This is Hamza speaking. It must be noted that science can reach a level of certainty, but this is very rare. And although highly effective, it has severe limitations. People need to understand this and limit it to its sphere. There are many areas of knowledge that science is de-scoped. In other words, it has no say. Therefore, people must be aware of the fanatics in this debate masquerading as bastions of truth and beacons of light for all to follow. These fanatics are the science fundamentalists who advocate a narrow and dogmatic approach to science. They presume and propagate naturalism, empiricism, and scientism, all of which are incoherent and lead to philosophical absurdities.
Just 2 things quickly, Almighty, if I may. Firstly, the link that you posted is actually a link to where it's stored on your computer, not on the internet.
Yeah, what the hell, dude?
and secondly, I didn't understand what you just said. I know that, and
I don't think the
I'm
person
interested.
who wrote it understood it.
So the thing is, though, that I don't get it when people say that science is a sphere. Science is a tool. That's it. It's a method. It's the best method we have for ascertaining the accuracy or the truth of any given matter in the world. That's what science is. So there's no sphere of science. Science can be applied anywhere. Want to figure out the best morality? Why? Use empiricism, data, and logic together to create, to establish what is the most, beneficial mode of morality to adopt. Science, that's what you use. That's what everyone uses. Should I go to the shops over here or the shops over there? Oh, let's see. Which one cost-benefit analysis? Which one is the best? Oh, it's a process. The process of science. right? So why, even Muslims use it, they use a distorted science, yeah? But they use a kind of science when they're, you know, hadiths and Quran and, oh, which one is more reliable? They use a shitty criteria, but they still do have like a, you know, a pseudo-scientific approach, you know? So
Yeah,
what is this about?
methodology.
Oh, there's a sphere of... No, there's not science is everywhere. We use it all the time. It's just that some people like to reject the conclusions of science in certain areas, which is why they arbitrarily delineate, oh yeah, here's the sphere of science, here's the sphere of religion, here's the sphere of my fucking head. Like, you know, it's just silly.
Okay, now the thing is, here's where you can see how strong the Craigian influence is, because he loves these poisonous, flawed syllogisms and these what he thinks are these logical, irrefutable structures. He says, point 1, evolution is an intellectual product of science. Point 2, science is made up of a process and a philosophy, blah, blah, blah. Point 3, the scientific process is limited. Point 4, the philosophy of science most of the time does not produce certain knowledge. Point 5, divine revelation is certain knowledge. Conclusions. Science is a limited method, whereas divine revelation is not. The end.
Well, the premises are airtight, so I mean the conclusion must be to follow directly from revelation is certain knowledge.
Yeah. Science isn't perfect. Magic is perfect. Magic wins every fucking time. Every fucking time.
Yeah.
I don't. How do you?
Well, let me take the words out of your mouth, if I may, Almighty, or try to. How do you deal with people like this? And this is something that I've been asking myself, and I want to try and bring it around to a serious point. I'm not saying what we're talking about is not serious, but how do you deal with people who are so fucking ignorant, so stupid, so indoctrinated, so willfully dishonest? How do you deal with these people, apart from doing the hard work of consistently showing them to be wrong? And you know, the amount of money that his organization is bringing in, if we had an annual salary like that, Jesus, we would only work a couple of years and then retire. They're bringing in about 800,000, I think his last tax returns were. Yeah. And it's a charity. I say him, I shouldn't, it's the I-era. I'm bringing in £800,000. That's about
three-word answer.
$1.3 million a year for him to go around with his cronies spreading this sort of disinformation. It is a serious issue. We talked before about the Arab Spring and how religion is responsible, or one of the main causes of all of these conflicts that are taking place. This religious nonsense is being perpetrated by him. What do we do to stop it? It's a very, very serious issue. And we can't rely on the likes of Dawkins and, unfortunately, no longer Hitchens and Sam Harris. There's got to be something more we can do, isn't there?
Just mediocre graduate students. That's the answer. Just assign like 2, you know, not great. I mean, you certainly don't want to use up your brain power on this kind of thing, but I'm sure that you can, in some solid university, you can assign like 1, you know, below average graduate student and just have them read through this crap and answer it.
Yeah.
Okay, Abhishek, what is your take? What would you suggest?
I guess I think I posted on his Facebook page to read through Kant's Critique of Pure Reason again, because he quotes from it but doesn't seem to understand it. And
you are allowed to put something on there?
Yeah.
Then you're not doing enough. If you are allowed to comment on his page, there's something wrong.
I have a better solution, guys. I've thought it a lot. You know, I've really considered it, but I think this is ultimately the best course of action that will solve most problems in one shot. We should nuke Mecca.
Oh Jesus! There'd never be an end to it.
I'm in.
I wrote actually. You're in.
Sign me up for that. They need a pilot. I can go to pilot school tomorrow. They need them.
Wow, an Arab and an American.
I don't take the blame, actually.
Ali will actually be the secularist suicide. He'll be the secularist 9/11, but it'll just be him flying a biplane into the Kaaba.
Yeah, it's just one of those little wind-up ones.
Just give me an island, okay? Call it a sovereign nation, and give me a plane and a bomb, and you can say the sovereign nation of Ali has bombs in Mecca.
You know, for every situation in life, there's a Simpsons sketch that I think of, and now I'm thinking of. Remember way back when there was an episode with Sideshow Bob where he tried to kill Krusty by flying that little biplane into that building, and it just wasn't effective. Sideshow Bob predicted the 9/11 attacks. Now that I think about it, he was. I mean, who had thought of that before he did? This was years and years before September 11, 2001.
Japanese.
Oh well, but not ships, not so much buildings.
I'm pretty sure the American government had an idea of the possibility of planes being used, like as a possible strategy. From maybe from some Al Qaeda leak or from they heard plans for a similar thing. So it was like they knew about the possibility, but yeah. So
was there a guy who flew to the Red Square in a little Cessna? I mean, that caused huge embarrassment.
I'm sorry,
No, but seriously, going back to the Hamza fad, or people like Hamza and others who tried to put these papers out. I'm really serious about that. Why is it not a good use of resources, considering the damage these people are causing, to assign some graduate students to just do nothing but read their papers and write a shellacking every time they come up with crap? I mean, I'm sure that there
needs to be an institution. There needs to be, and I actually
that's what I'm talking
trying
about.
to create this. I've been planning this for a while. I'm going to be creating at some point in the future. Get ready, ladies and gentlemen.
I think that every biology department should have one graduate.
Why waste the time when you can draft in, right? If you have an organization like the one I'm planning. I won't put the name out there yet, but I'm planning an organization that will be looking into and scrutinizing and researching Islam accurately. So basically, you go on the internet and you're like, oh, Islam, oh, Jihad Watch, oh, Pat Condell, oh, Wiki Islam, and they're all shitty, biased. They do such shocking research, like not only distort stuff, but they also miss stuff. They miss so much. Good shit that you could be really criticizing about Islam, and that just that is such sloppy research.
Nothing to do with Islam.
No. So, I propose I'm going to be creating like a website and sort of like an organization, and part of that will be responding systematically to people like Hamza Tzortzis every time they produce a piece of shit.
Well, you guys are already doing that, right?
No, but I mean like in a more centralized fashion, in as a single. Like a body.
It has happened, or it's in the process at the moment. It was started last week, and it's being filled with contents in the following week. So there's going to be 4 different areas. It's going to be on philosophy. It's going to be on the standard scientific claims. It's going to be everything that is condensed on Islam. All the information that you have is being put there. If you want any details, Captain Disguise is the one. He is the one who started this, and he is the initiator, and he is the one who is coordinating this.
Yeah, his paper on embryology was pretty good.
Okay, exactly. Now it's personal. I'm still reading this paper. He lists what he feels are 5 what he calls recalcitrant facts, which supposedly cause major problems for naturalistic philosophy. One is consciousness. The second is language acquisition. Now, I'm sorry, I don't know where he's getting this argument and regurgitating it from, but that really gets under my skin. We know how people acquire language. A lot of people, a lot of really smart people.
It's called Fox P2.
Are working on this issue. I mean, this has been a long-running debate between this I mean, we know a lot about the subject. I mean, that really actually makes me angry, not even joking, that he would put that on the list. Language acquisition seems mysterious, so it can't be explained. No, it can, and it has, thoroughly. Okay? It's just the fact that you didn't look up any of the mountain of research on the... That just pisses me off. I mean, we understand how language develops. We understand that. We're learning more and more about the language centers of the brain. We've done a lot of work with feral children, other simians and cetaceans that can acquire language and can even learn grammar with at least some degree of recursion. So I mean, this is just—it's ludicrous. I mean, it's
childish. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually watched a short vid by William, that included some comments from William Lane Craig, and he was talking about mind-body dualism, and a lot of his stuff boiled down to saying, well, you can't explain this and you can't explain this. And I thought, look, whether you're talking about a biological organism, or whether you're talking about a man-made machine, just because something is more complicated than you can fathom doesn't mean that there's magic involved. But that seems to be the conclusion that they are so quick to jump to. I mean, but the thing about the language acquisition, this is from the standpoint of a language student or language buff. This is as bad as Nadir Ahmed saying, well, there's no light at the bottom of the ocean, so aha. And then, of course, there is light at the bottom of the ocean. There's organisms that glow. There's bioluminescence. There's and so forth. So I mean, I still remember. I actually felt a little bad for him because we just shut him down so hard with that. As gentle as we could be about it. I mean, it had to be pretty embarrassing. But that's
not hard enough. The site still exists.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean that's how big of a flub his inclusion of language acquisition is in this. It's just he just didn't take 2 minutes to do an internet search and find out. Yeah, a lot of people have looked into this, and we do have definitive answers. I mean, we could always know more. We could always have a more detailed understanding, but that one I've taken up way too much. Sorry, that was personal. I took up way too much time when I'm kind of. Rant about the language acquisition.
Well, he does. I mean, he does have a point.
I released my video. Sorry, Ali, go.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, he does have a point. I mean, all these neurology people, they should just quit trying to understand consciousness because it's too hard for Hamza to understand.
Yeah.
So obviously, everybody's wasting their time if this genius could figure out how.
Because revelation is fact.
Yeah, revelation is absolute knowledge. I mean, don't you? I mean, these neurologists are just wasting our money.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing is, this is going to be obscure. You remember that we did that one stream and I was playing Minecraft?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. There's this stuff in that game, if you're not familiar, called redstone, and it's basically like a powder, but it actually conducts electricity and also produces it. And people build these incredibly elaborate sort of Rube Goldberg type machines with it, and people will put up videos where they'll have redstone as far as the eye can see, like a football field, and then like all of that is just some elaborate timing mechanism that just does something very simple. You know what I mean? But some of the things they make are just really mind-boggling. And whenever I tried to do stuff, I could copy someone else's diagram, but if I tried to make some mechanism, just dream something up and try to make like a double door that opens on my own, it just wouldn't work. Because, but the thing is, I wouldn't say, okay, well, you should take that out of the game. You should take that out of the game because I'm jealous of the people who are talented with that kind of thing. You know what I mean? But that's the mentality of the chronically anti-intellectual. It's like, I can't use it, I can't understand it, get rid of it.
Didn't you hear Adnan, what he said about Hamza? That he said he has studied this so much, he has so much knowledge, he's on a par now with a biology professor. This is what Adnan said about Hamza.
Well, that's Adnan. I mean, he's...
Well, Hamza is, after all, the Muslim Aristotle.
Yeah.
This is what he knows. This is exactly
biology-
Jing, you are right. This is what he compares himself
The
to.
Aristotle
He
of
uses
Islam.
himself as Socrates. He is the Muslim Socrates.
He is the
actually said this.
Socrates, Aristotle, and Anaximandra of
No, he
Islam.
uses that.
He is the Hercules, the David Hasselhoff, and the who's the Scientologist? The some other famous person of Islam. He is the bee's knees. He is the Allah of Islam, effectively.
But this is how he sees himself. This is the whole thing. He's completely deluded. Okay, Abhishek.
I just want to make a point about the linguistics, which you mentioned in the paper.
Mhm.
He quotes Noam Chomsky, where he said that language is is hardwired into the human brain, and so he concludes from that it can't be naturally evolved. But the thing is that if you take that to logical conclusion, then that would mean every piece of literature, pretty much everything everybody said is pretty much part of human nature. And you can't have a divine revelation. You can't have God intervening into language.
Yeah, Chomsky is the closest thing I have to an antichrist. I know a lot of people love him or hate him because of his political writings. I just despise the man because of his work in linguistics, because I hear so many people who are infatuated with his political writings, and they say, oh, he's such a brilliant linguist. The man is a complete fraud. He's not just controversial. He's not just wrong on this or that. He's been conclusively debunked in all of his core theories, and he still propagates them. And when confronted by people who have worked with feral children, with people who have worked, documenting recursion and how, all these different things, people who have really done the lab work, okay, because he's a theoretical linguist, he does no lab work, okay, people who have actually done that and confront him and say, here's where you're wrong, okay, all your theories, they're just completely unsupportable, all the evidence is against you, and what does he do? He rants against empiricism.
Can you actually point out any papers that would be a good guide?
I could rummage around, but I mean see, I don't want to take up too much time on my pet subject because I already took up. But okay, let me give you a brief example. In Japanese, you have a polite form. Okay, it's not a tense or a mood or anything like that. It's a form where you add mas to everything. Then you have a sort of archaic honorific where you say, like for example, to be is gozaru, okay, and then you can stack those and have a polite honorific and say gozaimasu, right? Now, Chomsky's argument is that language is innate, and that essentially when we speak, we're selecting from a list of possible or available combinations. So that would mean that you and I, Ali who speaks English and Arabic, Stop who speaks English and German, DPR who speaks English, and then a variety of pillow talk that only he and Klingschor understand. We all these languages, they have one master list of grammatical rules and syntactical possibilities, and we just select from those. But that's just insane when you look at, and that is to suggest that English has the same, quadrant of casual, polite, honorific, and polite honorific, and we just don't use them. They become vestigial somehow. You understand how absurd that really is? And then, of course, if it was innate, then it would have to be linked to our, our genetic code at some point, which means that if you had, for example, people many generations living in England, and then many generations living in Japan, well, those two languages, their grammar and their sentences branch in different directions, okay, which means that basically the word order is different. So if it was genetic, then after years and years and years, generations or after generations, because it's biological evolution, it's the number of births and and the number of mutations that count. The ability of someone who speaks a left branching language to suddenly start speaking right branching language would be impaired. You understand? So if you took a British baby and a Japanese baby and switched them at birth, they would have incredible difficulty if it was innate. You understand what I'm saying? But that's not what you see. You know what I mean? You can switch them, and as long as they hear it when they're growing up, then they learn it just fine. So it definitively settles the nature versus nurture sort of argument. I think. Oh, we lost Klingschor. That's no great loss. So yeah, he's completely wrong. He's been completely and on a wide variety of other things. And like I said, I don't want to take up too much time, but he's completely wrong. But I always have to listen to these people who like his political writings. What a brilliant linguist he is. He is not, and he is not very well regarded by his peers globally at all. The man is a complete fraud.
What do you think of Steven Pinker?
I'm tired. I'm tired after that. What about?
Well, just a one-word answer will do. Good, bad, maybe.
Not really that familiar.
What do you think of Wittgenstein's language games?
I haven't read that much of Wittgenstein.
It seems to be
I think it's time to get back to Islam now.
Yeah. Like I don't want to spend too much time on this.
Okay, now that you have ruined a perfectly good Saturday by mentioning the name Hamza, go ahead.
Yeah, what were we even talking about? Oh, I don't even remember.
Syria.
Nani deru? What? Seriously, what were we talking? I wasn't joking. What were we talking about?
No, this is what happened. Avishik came in and asked about this paper.
Okay then. Well, thank you for your call, Avi. We'll see you around. Yeah, I just finished. I was scrolling through it and I reached the end of it, and it didn't get any better.
That's for sure.
Can I just add for those?
Can I have 30 seconds? Somebody asked, how do we know that Muhammad existed? We don't. There is no evidence. There is nothing that you can put there that shows conclusively that the Muhammad as mentioned in the Hadith actually existed. We know for sure that Jesus did not exist, but we don't know whether Muhammad, as described, was actually.
What a Freudian slip.
Yes.
Was
but no, actually, I would disagree.
They're practically interchangeable.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We haven't yet discovered Hamza's hidden 9-year-old wife, so when that happens, yeah. Anyway, no, I would actually disagree. I think that I would agree that there is a kind of almost like very strong evidence that Jesus did not exist. I happen to think that is so. But with Muhammad, most of the hadiths are wrong in all the little details, but the general vibe of an Arab monotheistic leader named Muhammad who gave the Arabs a set of, or implemented a set of dietary and moral codes, like don't commit adultery, don't eat certain foods, don't drink wine. That is attested very, very early on. Like
how many Muhammad?
Hey? How many Muhammad? One Muhammad.
Wait a minute. What non-Muslim sources do we have of Muhammad during his lifetime or shortly after his death to be making that kind of statement?
Yes. In fact, no. What are you saying, Zero? There are heaps. There are heaps of Syriac sources. Hold on a second, and I will.
And there's CBS.
Name a few, because I struggle to find any.
Thomas Presbyter, the one from the CBS, is the Doctrine of Iobi. Who's that by? Is that by CBS or is that a separate one? Hold on. There's actually a couple that mention.
Please, read up on those things. I went through them when Tom Holland was on. I went through them, and I went and totally discredited what Hamza was saying. Oh, shit. Are you listening or not?
I am.
When Tom Holland was on, I went and looked at all these sources, and I looked at them, and they have nothing to do with the Muhammad that we know.
Well, the thing is,
I tried to find any sources. The closest thing was something like 60 years after his death, and it was basically what the Arabs were saying. And then after that, you get sources like 100 and something years after that with, again, all just reiterating the Arab sources. Nobody seems to have any kind of account of this guy other than the accounts that come from Muslim sources, which I am not willing to take on their face value. And so I'm willing to give to the opinion that maybe they just made this whole thing up after a while, and, you know, that's what came down. I don't see why that's not possible.
We have, alright, so I think the Doctrina Iobi is the one that details this. It was dated to around 634. Yeah, which is the one, very early one. I think it's the Doctrina Iobi, which talks about hold on, where's the Eusebius? It talks about okay, I think it's from 660. It talks about Muhammad and how he
it does not talk about Muhammad.
Yes, it does. It says Muhammad.
Look what it says.
In Syria,
Look what it says. A guy standing on a chariot with a sword who is a false prophet?
Hold on. Alright. Hold on a second.
That could be anybody.
Exactly.
No.
In the chat.
No, you have
Muhammad means the anointed one. Muhammad is
no.
actually the Christ.
No.
This is a function. It is not a name.
Okay, here I have now, right? So first of all, I'd say that the book that you can find these materials in is all these early sources that have been catalogued by an academic. The book is, and give me a second to pick it up. It's by Robert Hoyland, and it's called what is it called? Seeing Islam as Others Saw It. And now some of the sources include, let's see, we've got. There's the record of Thomas the Presbyter, who mentions the Arabs of Muhammad. This was written in 640. Sorry.
That's exactly the point. The Arabs of Muhammad. The Arabs of the
yeah, and you go, and then there's another one, but then, right, Eusebius, the bishop of Eusebius, who's writing in the 660s. So this is 40 years after the Hijrah. So this is
40 years after his death, and he mentions only what the Arabs say about Muhammad. Nothing is firsthand about Muhammad. I've actually read up on the source, and it's not academic and not to be taken as history.
It says Muhammad, right? And he was a merchant. He was a preacher. He taught that he was inspired by Moses. He was, he made them end polytheism. He
gets the story from the Arabs at the time.
So this is like a very early source. Like, if you're gonna reject this, then goodbye.
It's not a source.
Goodbye.
Klingschor. This is like the PDF of Jesus. It's the same thing. It's like a marketing insert.
No, I don't think it is, because
it is. The first source is Mark 70 years after his death. Why? How is this any different?
Well, because we do have some early sources mentioning him, and then we have a very early on 30 years.
Well, then name one. Kling, you're not doing it. You're not doing it properly. No, you didn't. You are saying somebody said something about somebody else that you heard from somebody else.
You're strawmanning me. Why are you strawmanning me? No, that is definitely not it. You've got what? From a Jamaican uni. Yes, I go to a Jamaican university. Atheismo. You got me. No, there are we've got sources. I mean, the sources actually indicate that Muhammad was alive in 634. That's what the sources indicate. These early Syriac sources. There's just been a book written about it.
What does it say, really? What does it say? Look what it says.
I have to say, the argument that a book has just been written about it is as convincing as a paper's just been written by hundreds of sources.
No.
It doesn't mean
it is convincing as an academic said it in a book.
So, no, that's it though. An academic has just written a book examining these early sources, which indicate that Muhammad was alive in 640 based on these early Syriac sources. Now, on what basis do you reject what the Bishop Eusebius says? Because right here, he has said very early on, 30 years after Muhammad died according to the Arab standards, but actually 20 years after he would have died approximately, according to this new academic
I'll give you the basis,
research.
And the basis is he himself says that he gets this information from the Arabs that come by him at the time.
Yeah, so where else would he get
that the Arabs made this thing up, okay, then it perfectly fits within the narrative that some few years after he's said to have been died, some Arabs went by this guy and told him we had a prophet. I mean, there's nothing there that concludes that he was an actual person that...
No, because we do know that Muhammad exists, right? They mention the Arabs in Muhammad. They mention Muhammad leading the Arabs, right, in earlier sources, right, which is what I was just talking about, Thomas the Presbyter and so forth, right? So there was a dude called Muhammad leading the Arabs, right? And then 10 or 20 years later, we've got a dude actually saying, oh, and this is what the Arabs say that Muhammad was like. Now, if you reject this, then you also reject Socrates, right? You also reject a whole heap of other historical characters that actually have less evidence and less early evidence than this.
They did not.
Okay, can I interject? I think that Socrates is in the same category as Jesus, in that since his influence was largely through speeches, and there's no political or military affairs that he was so intimately involved in the way Muhammad was. I guess it's a lot easier for people to think of Muhammad as a historical character, or at least based on some sort of political figure or warlord. I mean, I'm sure he's based on at least someone. But I mean, what are we trying to accomplish by other than discussion and speculation? What are we trying to accomplish by saying that this person could not have been could have been a fable? You know, I mean, does it really make that?
There's an answer to this. I'm trying to show that it is not a clear-cut black and white picture. Somebody asked, is it for sure that Muhammad existed? It is not clear-cut. There are indications that he existed. There are indications that a person with the character traits of Muhammad existed. We do not know for sure whether the Muhammad as depicted in the Islamic tradition actually existed. We do not know. And this is what I'm trying to achieve here. I'm trying to show that it is not clear-cut. That's all I'm trying to do.
But so actually, even though you've been disagreeing with me, you agree with what I said at the very beginning, which was most of the hadiths describing Muhammad are probably false, but there was, in the basis, a dude. So why we had this rationalism. But I mean, just another point though, is that the earliest Arab source mentioning Muhammad is actually after all these Christian sources. So, if the Arabs had made it up, I would have expected the Arabs to mention it first, later on, and then after the Arabs had established Muhammad, Christians would start talking
exactly
about
what happened.
But see, no, because that didn't happen, because the earliest sources, like Thomas the Presbyter, is talking about the Arab-Muslim invasions. So they're not just sitting chatting to the Arabs. They're talking about these big geopolitical events that are going on around them, like the sacking and destruction of Persia and the Levant. And in the
I've got a book. Yeah. I've got a book by an academic that says Muhammad may not have existed. By Robert Wright. Just to counter your academic book argument.
Come on.
Is your book bigger than his book?
It is. My book is, in fact, bigger than his book.
How many pages?
Right.
It's about 600 or so pages.
I think that you missed the point of what I was saying. I didn't mean that it merely being in a book proves it. I meant that these sources do exist, and they have been like these legitimate sources, and proper historians well versed in these early traditions have been examining them, and these are the kinds of... Now, Robert Wright, I highly doubt, either had access to these sources, because a lot of them are only just being discovered recently, or, I mean, Robert Wright, who the hell is Robert Wright anyway?
I don't know. Who's your academic?
Oh, right, he's a journalist. Is that the Robert Wright you're talking about? The journalist Robert Wright? Evolution of God.
It was supposed to be a joke about the book was written about it thing. Was it really supposed to be? I mean, the point. I think that the point is that okay, yes, he probably did exist, most likely, because there's so much saying that he did exist that it would be kind of difficult. But there is a case to be made that he was a made-up figure. I mean, it's not as definitive as some people make it out to be, at least in my opinion. Anyways, I think that you can make a case that Muhammad never existed. I think that you can make a case saying that, and you wouldn't be. completely in La La Land.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you have to give a little bit of leeway to your consideration. I mean, if Muhammad had been born in Georgia during the American Civil War, then we'd have Ken Burns reading, correspondence about him. Dearest Clarabelle, Muhammad and I went, here and there, and we shot some, some Yanks and so forth. You know what I mean? So I mean, the relative lack of literacy is the main problem. You didn't have on the peninsula enough of a volume of written works to leave behind an impression. So it's unsurprising that a foreign source would be the first source that we find, like in the case with Eusebius and the other Christian authors. DPR has a comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where the people think this is going. If you could prove the existence of Muhammad, or you could not prove the existence of Muhammad, where do you think that is taking us? Because in my view, it's not going to get anywhere. You're not going to approach a Muslim and say, hey, look, I've got conclusive proof that Muhammad didn't exist, and expect to persuade him. So is this just not a somewhat redundant academic argument?
I think that it has more of an impact for people who are anti-religious. If you can say, oh, Jesus never existed, it's like, oh, I feel even better about not being a Christian anymore. I think that's pretty much it. Like, otherwise, you're right. Like, if I say Muhammad never existed,
I mean, whether Jesus existed or Muhammad existed has absolutely no bearing whatsoever, in my view, on whether the claims that the religious make on either side are true. That's, I suppose, a better way of putting my point.
Correct. It was a question that I was asked earlier on.
So, anyway, I think we lost Abhishek.
Can I ask the next question?
Yes, please.
What is the basis for the claim for Jerusalem?
That it exists?
No. All right.
Well, what's the first written record we have of it?
There's a sentence in the Quran which says that they should go to the furthest mosque. Mm-hmm. Now, for some reason, they did not go to Istanbul, they did not go to Damascus, they did not go to any other mosque, but they decided that the place where this should be is Jerusalem, which didn't have a mosque at the time. So I have frantically tried to research this and tried to find the grounds and tried to find any kind of historic literature that sort of substantiates the claim of Jerusalem in any way being involved with Islam, and I have not found it. So I was wanting to know if anybody has any information why Jerusalem would or should be claimed in any way by Islam.
I guess Klingschor will probably want to jump on that.
My power is about to die in like a minute, so I'll probably cut off mid-reply. So I might go find myself another power source. And I'll let one of you guys try and figure it out.
Well, you're certainly not going to get any sensible response from me, because I've got absolutely no idea. This is not my field, and even, excuse me, in relation to Christianity, I'm not entirely sure what their claims to Jerusalem are, but it seems that the gods of all these religions seem to be fighting out over a few acres of land around Jerusalem for some reason.
Well, the Jews have a claim because it's mentioned in the Bible, I don't know how many zillions of times. It is not mentioned in the Quran, it is not mentioned anywhere in any Islamic literature. I don't know where this comes from.
Well, I mean, they're clearly building on pre-existing Abrahamic traditions. Although they would claim that it's the other way around, and that they say Islam is first and Judaism and Christianity built on them. But either way, you But yeah, to say the farthest mosque and say it's a mosque that hasn't been built, I wonder, is that more more superimposing their religion, like I was saying, okay, well, Islam was really first, and these are corruption. Were they using that in reference to what, the temple that existed at the time, and saying, well, it's basically a mosque. At some point, it was corrupted. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the explanation.
No, hang on. This was destroyed. The temple has never been rebuilt.
They didn't even know about the temple, did they? I mean, is the temple actually mentioned anywhere in Islamic scripture?
No.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that the extended volumes of religious writings it is. But in... Oh, yeah, by the way, someone's been sending a contact request to the Magic Sandwich Show. Please send your contact request to the Gin and Tonic Show. And then when I accept, let me know who you are, if you want to come on the show, or if you want to ask a question online, what your question or comment is. So yeah, I'm sure that, I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of people who, specialize. I mean, we already enjoy watching Christian and Muslim apologists who have done cursory study of each other's religions go back and forth, saying, well, my scripture says this, but no, my scripture says that. But I wonder how much serious investigation of each other's claims there has been. You know what I mean? It's so somewhere out there must be, Muslim scholars, or at least historically, if we go back to medieval writings, who could answer Stop's question about what is the policy that Islamic religious scholars should have towards Jewish and Christian claims about the significance of Jerusalem.
Oh yeah, no, that exists.
Huh?
But I'm interested in the original stuff. Why they would want Jerusalem on the track record? This is something I've never understood.
Yeah, I mean, they could have just picked any arbitrary place. I mean, well, there was apparently the time where he said, okay, we're going to face Jerusalem for our prayers, and then when he had a falling out with the Jews of Medina, he changed it, and then they faced the Kaaba. So I wonder why Jerusalem didn't lose its significance at that point for good and all.
Yeah, but that is later again. This is in the Hadith. This is not in the Quran.
Yeah, right. Well, it's kind of a blurry timeline, though. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they would say that it's the first.
Because I drew a blank.
Where did Muhammad apparently get on a horse and fly to? I thought was that not Jerusalem before
yes, that's Hadith.
Yeah, it
was.
That's
not Quran.
It was. It's not Quran. It is Hadith.
Yeah, that's Hadith, but it's
a
very.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's Hadith, and wait, but doesn't the Quran mention it, or there's some verses that they interpret as referencing it?
No.
Yeah, it's just the name of the trip, I think, is what's mentioned in the Quran, the Isra and Mi'raj, but it doesn't. I don't think it actually goes into detail.
Yeah, that's the thing about the Quran, is it mentions so many things in passing. It's like when I bring up a Simpsons episode, I make sure to explain the Simpsons episode for people who haven't seen that episode. But Muhammad always assumes that you watch the Simpsons and that you've seen the same episodes that he has. Which is really quite frustrating. I mean, it's a good thing that they bothered to write the top seer and such, because, like I said, he mentions so many things just in passing, as though you, the reader, are intimately familiar with all of these different legends and so forth. And it's funny because I've gone rounds with people who try to say, oh well, this word in Arabic could have 1,000 different meanings, and I'll say, okay, well, here's why that's not true. But the Quran does get very vague, just in terms of failure to be explicit. It's too many inside jokes, which is a very peculiar trait for a book written by an otherworldly being.
I think we actually mentioned something like this. I think the last show, maybe. I think that
I repeat myself.
Muslims. No, I think it was me that said it. I think Muslims like to say like Muhammad was such a radical changeover from whatever was going on at the time, and for somebody who's got such a radical new idea, it seems kind of funny how he never has to explain things, and everybody knows what he's talking about. I mean, he says Allah, and everybody knows what Allah is. He says Moses, and everybody knows what Moses is. You know, he may have to explain some of the stories a little bit, but it seems like everybody was already familiar with the tales that Muhammad was telling, and they actually said as much. They said that this was just ancient dribble when they were talking to him. So, you know, he does do a lot of that, and that actually, I think, is kind of a point against Muhammad, because what he was selling wasn't actually so radical, if you think about it, because, well, if it was so radical, I think there'd be a lot more explanations taking place.
Okay, so here it is from, this DPR, this is from Surah 17, Ayat 1. Glory to Allah, who did take his servant for a journey by night from the sacred mosque to the furthest mosque. So this is where they sort of pin it together and say that this is where the Al-Aqsa, the furthest mosque, refers. This is why they think it refers to the one to Jerusalem, because the extra Quranic sources, namely the Hadith, claim that it was a trip from Mecca, Jerusalem, then up into heaven, then back down to Jerusalem, and then back to Mecca.
And upon what basis?
But you know, actually,
I'm sorry. Upon what basis do they make that interpretation?
Well, but I wonder. Well, yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
It's just make believe, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's the thing is, it seems to me that the name furthest mosque would refer to some location in the heavens. You know what I mean? Like some, you know, would there be mosques in heaven? I don't see why not. You know, so that seems the furthest point wouldn't be from 2 points on the Earth. It would be between the Earth and someplace else. So if it weren't for the fact that this interpretation already exists, a blind reading of this, or excuse me, a first-time reading of this, I would come to the conclusion that the furthest mosque was a mosque up in the heavens. You know, sort of opposite the point on the Earth. But apparently that's just not how it's been interpreted historically. But I mean, obviously the Al-Aqsa Mosque is not the furthest point on the Earth away from Mecca, and it certainly wasn't the furthest point that a mosque would be built. I mean, they should have put the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Samarkand or someplace like that, because I mean, obviously the empire reached a great extent.
No such thing as the furthest point.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, yeah,
Sphere.
the furthest point from Mecca is Mecca, because you'd have to go all the way around. That's the furthest you can. I mean, you could put it on the exact opposite point on the Earth, but I don't know. If you took the latitude and longitude, chances are you'd end up.
Is there a land on the opposite point of Mecca?
I'm gonna. Oh, you guys keep talking. I'm actually gonna look up and see where that is, just out of curiosity. Okay,
I've done that.
Hold on. You guys talk about.
I've done that for a video. It's in the middle of the sea. It's in the middle of the ocean, just south of Japan. Because I've done this for a video.
You did.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Because there's a miracle claim, a scientific miracle claim, saying that the ratio of 1.6 blah 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 is exactly where Mecca is, and I showed how many different spots there are that would qualify with the same coordinates, just on the opposite side. Well, I said you have to face Mecca. Well, what happens if you're on just south of Japan? Your bum is going to point to Mecca too. So what are you going to do now?
All right. By the way, going back to the, I think it's a winged donkey, not a winged horse.
Yeah.
Maybe I think I'm mistaken, but I think it is a winged donkey, not a winged horse. And of
It's
course,
in between. It's in between a mule and a donkey with a human head.
Well, I mean, that makes the story absolutely true
And
when
the
you
tail
think
of
about
a
it.
peacock.
Yeah, because of course you couldn't have a winged horse, but you could have a winged donkey.
You need to look at the whole story, and then you will understand that before Muhammad was able to get onto this horse, they first had to perform open heart surgery, because they opened his chest, and then his heart was filled with knowledge, and then he was put back together. Oh, sorry, I forgot about the Zamzam. His heart was washed with Zamzam water to make it pure.
Wow, Billy Mays couldn't give a better advert for Zamzam water than, you know, a guy getting his heart washed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, now we're just being silly.
Yeah, I think we've crossed the silly line a long time ago.
carnival?
I think it's just because of the lack of topic that we've had.
I think we were just eager to get away from the depressing start of, that we had on current affairs.
Yep.
It's kind of nice to talk about stuff that's lighthearted instead of just.
Okay, who can tell me the difference and the opposite or the differentiation between merciful and just?
What do you mean?
Okay. Well, the names of Allah, there's 99 names of Allah. Nobody knows where they come from. Nobody knows what the 99 are. They are always different depending on what website you go to. But they always contain all just and all merciful. I mean, Surah 1, Chapter 1, Sentence 1 starts off with the most gracious, the most beneficial, the most merciful, the most blah, blah, blah. So he is merciful. But he's also all just. And in my eyes, that is a contradiction.
How do you figure? I don't think it is necessarily.
Well, I mean, if you've got half a brain, you see that it's a contradiction. But if you're a Muslim, then you can come up with ways.
But wait, what's the problem?
The problem is if you are a judge in Virginia, you've got a guy in front of you who's raped the woman, got found out, murdered the husband and killed the child. What is the sentence that you're going to give him? The electric chair. Because in Virginia, they have the electric chair. So that is the maximum punishment that you can give, and that is the just punishment which is associated with this crime. Now, the judge applies mercy, which means he does not give the maximum, but one less, which is not death, but a little bit less than death, which is life. In other words, the electric chair can get retired. Now, we see that just minus a little bit of mercy is less than the maximum. Yeah, if I go to the Quran, the maximum is hell. Mm-hmm. So if I take the all-merciful God, it would be a little bit less than maximum, which would not be hell, which would mean hell could get retired. It is not retired. So in other words, you cannot be all just and merciful at the same time. This is the way that I understand it.
Well, I don't know. I think that what you're supposed to take away from it is that, like in the case of the judge, that he the judge won't hold a grudge against you forever, you know. But I mean, there's a big difference between forgiving someone and not forgiving someone, and applying a punishment and not applying a punishment if the punishment is deemed suitable. You know what I mean? It's like if you have a child, it misbehaves, you discipline it, but you don't grow to hate it just based on that misbehavior. So I think that there is some sensible ground.
No. If you're gonna say you're all merciful, okay, that entails some kind of forgiveness for things you should be punished for. And so you can't then turn around and say that you're all just because you've forgiven stuff that should have been punished. And so you can either be all merciful or all just, but you can't be both, because if you're going to forgive where justice should be done, then you can't be all just. And if you're not going to forgive and you're going to dole out justice exactly as it should be, then you're not really that merciful. I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can say you're all just and you're sometimes merciful, but even then, you can't be all just, because if you're going to forgive it all, then some justice has not been doled out.
You know, I actually think is a bigger problem. I'd have to look up the original Arabic term, but one of the names that God has in the Quran is the oft forgiving. That's a clear contradiction in my view. You can't be all merciful, but only oft forgiving. That to me
that's
is
another one. Yeah, that's actually even worse. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think that many people would find some way of getting the ideas of mercifulness and justness to. I think many people can compromise those things if they don't take the path that you have taken. But I do think that the oft forgiving, assuming, and I'd have to look this up, assuming that that's an accurate translation of that term. If it really does say oft forgiving and then says all merciful, then I think you have a real problem.
Again, I just wanted to know if I am the only one who sees a problem here.
No, I see a clear problem.
I see your point. I see your point. I don't think it's such a deal breaker. I don't think that they're 180 degrees away from one another. I mean, I think a lot of people, a lot of the believers would argue, well, the punishment is a mercy. That just sounds like something that they would say. I don't know.
That's exactly what they do. You would make a good apologist.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say you can do that. There is always the option of turning your brain off and just making it fit. You can definitely get it to fit if you work hard enough and you ignore enough of your senses. You can make that fit. I can see that.
The way they combine terms sometimes, apologists like Craig saying that the massacre of the children was their salvation and a mercy and the kindest thing you could do.
No, I called it Muslimologica.
I'm sorry?
I was just asked if I call this mental acrobatics or something. No, I call it Muslimologica.
So,
sorry, Muslimologics.
Yeah, we got it. Anyway, so Kling, you're back. What's going on?
I have returned from the other side. I must testify that I was wrong. Muhammad is the prophet.
Okay, come on. This is getting silly. See, we need Hassan back. That way we don't just regress to a bunch of juveniles.
But this is much more fun than being so serious.
I'm sorry, what?
This is much more
Can we
fun
talk a little
than
bit about
serious
cosmology in the Quran?
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, I wanted to kind of save that because there's like we can seriously do a whole show on that. And I reckon we should. I actually want that to be 2 shows from now, or 3 or 4. I want that to be a subject because it is actually really fun, really fascinating, and there's so much you can look into.
Cosmology in the Quran?
Cosmology in the Quran, it's wrong.
You're a scooper.
But there's just 2 sentences.
No, 2 sentences. No, stop saying. There are many more than 2 sentences.
You'll have to wait. You'll have to wait.
There are many more.
To answer your question, you'll have to wait for the IERA's next paper. Yes, Virginia, the sun really does go down at the end of the day in a pool of muddy water.
But isn't that 2104 and 21104 or something like that? Or sorry, it was 2130 and 21104. That's it.
If you give me but a moment, I will elucidate all.
Can we at least bring up what the definition of sky is?
Yes, give me a second. All right, here we go. All right, so Quranic cosmography. Now,
when the heavens were joined, and then when they were folded up.
Heavens? Okay.
Heavens joined, heavens folded.
We've got the sama, which is the Arabic word for both sky and heaven. It means the same thing, sama. We've got bina, which is a raised structure, a dome or a roof, which is how the Quran is described in Surah 2, verse 22, and Surah 40, verse 64.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Then you've got saqf. Saqf is also roof or canopy, as the sama, the sky, heaven sky, is described in Surah 21, verse 32, and Surah 52, verse 5. And it is no wonder, therefore, that Iyas bin Muawiyah, an 8th century Umayyad judge of Basra, the head judge of the city, is recorded by the notable Muslim scholar Ibn Kathir as having stated that the heaven is like a dome over the earth. A similar sentiment is also expressed by Ibn Kathir himself, one of the greatest mufassirun ever, and Qatada bin Di'ama, who was an early Muslim savant prominent in nascent Quranic exegesis and Islamic traditionalism.
Yeah, can you imagine living in a time where people thought that the Earth was a dome? Wouldn't you immediately be drawn to launch an expedition to the edge? Because if it's the heavens on the other side, then unless you can fly, then the only way you're going to reach the heavens is to just sail like the Truman Show and ram your ship into the side of the dome that covers the sky. Think about it.
And find the pot of gold at the bottom of the rainbow.
Oh, now you're just being silly. I'm talking about. I mean, imagine the world really is like one of those little snow globes, or the half snow globes. wouldn't you immediately say, hey, you know, let's get our ships together and go to the edge? That's the first thing that I think of. Is let's go to the very. If it's a dome, it has a point of where it terminates. Let's go there.
Okay, but
You
hang
touched
on,
upon an
what is
interesting
what is
point,
the
I think.
cosmology?
If I may, you touched
It's
upon
actually-
an interesting point that was highlighted by the wonderful Professor A.C. Grading in a speech which is available on YouTube, in which he
He's a
talks
gem.
about the idea of gods becoming more geographically distant as our understanding and knowledge and ability to travel improved. And he does it far more eloquently than I'm about to do, but he talks about, obviously, the gods of Olympus, who are on top of a mountain, and then you've got the gods that are in the heavens, and through progressive improvements in understanding in science and technology, the gods get further and further away, and now they are left to fill in very small gaps, such as creating the Big Bang or something like that. But they become increasingly more distant. So, in a way, I accept your point, but I don't think it's a particularly persuasive one that they should have set off in an exploration to reach the edge of the globe, as it was in those days.
Stopspamming, you wanted to know what the cosmology is not quite the right word, because cosmology means the origins and also the ending of the universe. What we're really,
That's cosmogony.
No. Cosmology includes all of this. So what
Sorry.
specifically what we're looking at here is cosmography, which is a subset of cosmology, which is the geographical, also the actual shape of the universe. So what is the cosmography of the Quran? Well, basically you've got 7 heavens, you've got 7 earths, you've got 7 gateways, or possibly 7 hells. The earth is flat. Mountains are pegs to hold the earth flat and stable, although it's not clear if it's just the one earth or if every single earth, because there are 7 earths, have this feature. The earth, at least our earth, has an edge where the sun seems to go past and set, because they've got the ocean around the edge of the world, like the Oceanus, like the Greeks had. But then you've also got so the sun seems to set in there, and like Alexander the Great, the pardon name, visits the edge of the earth, where it's really hot because the sun passes close. But at the same time, the sun also has a resting place, and the hadith say that it actually rests beneath the throne of Allah. So it's not really clear what the hell Muhammad's talking about here, because he seems to be giving a contradictory. I mean, the reason for 7 heavens is that for the ancient Greeks, there were 7 celestial bodies rotating around the earth. There was the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter. And they were the 7 celestial bodies, and that's where 7 heavens comes from. But Muhammad adopted the 7 heavens, but he didn't realize that the 7 heavens are the 7 celestial orbits. And so he actually...
Doesn't that also occur in Christianity, though? The idea of 7 heavens as being 7 layers of...
It was adopted by the Greeks, yeah. I don't know of if... Like...
Hey, can I just correct you on something here? You said that Saqf is roof, it's ceiling. It's not a huge correction, but it's supposed to be the inside.
Look, my source is, I'm just going for what my source says, and it said roof or canopy, so that's just what I gave. But, like, I don't know if it doesn't make an operational difference. Like,
well, it's on the inside. You see it from the inside rather than from the outside.
Okay. Well, someone should email...
Well, it does actually say Ghata in other places, which is roof.
As in the exterior. But see,
yeah.
The thing is, right, ceiling and roof I feel are synonymous. Like, I look up at the ceiling and go, oh yeah, the roof.
Yeah.
In general. But I'm...
Okay, I generally see it as ceiling being looking from the inside.
Ceiling would be a little bit more accurate, you feel?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously doesn't change anything, but it just felt like being a jerk. We can go back to what you were saying. Sorry.
Actually, see, I would rather wait until the show, because there's actually like there are like 10 10 things we can explore with the cosmography of the Earth. We've got the flat Earth, we've got 7 Earths, we've got 7 hells, we've got 7 heavens, the dome of heaven, the sun, the moon, and the planets, the stars, shooting stars, and the primal waters. These are all subjects of the cosmography that we can explore, and I feel like we could actually spend a whole show doing that. So why don't we hold off this for now and just have this as a teaser for a future show?
Well, you know what's funny is how many different bizarre answers. You know, there are people from sort of the Nadir Ahmed school who say, oh, the 7 heavens refer to 7 different layers in our atmosphere, so they place it a lot closer. And of course, there aren't exactly 7, but they say, okay, it's a scientific miracle.
Yeah, but you know what that means? That there are prophets in the atmosphere. Because when Muhammad flies on his winged donkey, he meets prophets in each one of the 7 heavens. And so anytime somebody says that to you, you can always turn around and say, can you show me Jesus in the atmosphere, please?
Well, they can show you his face on a piece of toast, so I'm pretty sure.
Touche.
They've got you there.
And then I felt like, oh, you know, I once looked up and saw a cloud that looked a bit like Jesus. And it was really Jesus. Because he's in the atmosphere. Yeah. So a complete segue. Oh, can you guys hear me?
It's as you British would say. Wait, how do we have? Yeah, stop spamming and DPR are British, right? Yeah, so
Stop spamming.
Stop
Stop
South
spamming
African.
is South Africa. Yeah.
South African? Holy crap! Sorry.
Now you're Canadian, aren't you, Ali?
I'm actually Asian. Chinese, to be exact.
Okay. Because Arabia is part of. I mean, see, ethnically Arab.
I almost.
I'm African.
Almost said the same.
Ethnically Arab, but nationally African. Well, except nationally American. What a
I'm not American, by the way.
Hmm?
I don't want the government to come after me. I'm not an American citizen. So don't...
Next topic.
Just saying that now for the IRS and the immigration services.
Alright, cool. Anyway, another topic. Well, fun. Someone was just asking me in the chat if I'm at war with Dawah films. The answer
Everybody is. The whole world.
No. My suave answer is, can one be at war with an ant on the ground?
I was just gonna say it's like having a boxing match with a 6-year-old.
I usually just avoid him as a topic, but I'm in a silly mood, so go ahead. What's transpiring for those of you who have been keeping up?
See, I made a video discussing the problems with criticizing Islam, or the problems with certain parties who criticize Islam, and some of the
a video about sex.
As in SECTS for those who misunderstand his. Okay. The problem with criticizing Islam is the video that I made, and then I also made a video. The problem with criticizing is blah, 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 blah. Keep your seats, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be fine. But Dawah Films thought he'd jump in and make a response, and it was just a pile of unadulterated shit. It was just absolute nonsense.
Now, I don't appreciate that. I consider Dawah Films to be an intellectual giant, just so that you know.
What was the thrust of What was his argument? What did he take issue with?
Oh God. See, I just deleted the experience from my mind. Hold on, let me look it up. 1 second.
Well, I mean, just what was.
Whilst you're looking it up,
Wait.
can you imagine what would happen if Dawah Films and Hamza Tzortzis got together? There would be a meeting of forces that would either destroy or take over the world. The egos of both those fucking twats would be awesome.
They couldn't take kindergarten if they wanted to.
They would both denounce each other as what would happen. They would both denounce each other as teaching a false version of it. That's what I'm putting my money on, and it's money in the fucking bank.
Romance.
I don't think it would. I think that they have very different. See, Hamza is like a Hanbali / science Muslim, whatever you want to call that, pseudoscience Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
Dawah Films is like a neo-orthodox Sufi, I'm going to reform the Islamic world with magic Muslim. But I mean, they do have some, like, you know, they both kind of want to bring up the caliphate, it seems, or some, like, they've got that kind of this Muslim romanticism.
They both kneel down in the same direction 5 times a day, don't they? They just have a different interpretation and different egos. I mean, it would be a huge clash of egos, wouldn't it? As I say, it would either destroy the world or it would take over the world.
It's like the Large Hadron Collider or whatever it is. Like, all these conspiracy theories from the internet. Oh, when they choose these means.
So anyway, back to the vid. What was his argument? What did he take issue with?
Let me look at my.
I actually
not understand that Klingschor was actually making a point for Islam, that he was lamenting the fact that there are many, many people who are just going anti-Islam without really knowing what they're talking about. He made some very good points, showing some examples where people were going off ranting about Islam without really knowing it. Now, what Dawah Films was doing is he didn't understand the whole point. So what he said, how can somebody dare object or say or comment anything about Islam without being a Muslim? So he was being an asshole.
So he wasn't taking issue with anything specific?
Oh no, he was. Like he was basically did a bunch of straw men about academics and what my views on academics and academic, you know, concerning Islam were.
He seems to think that we should all take that Sahih, Bukhari, and Muslim are the most accurate academic sources, and that anybody who says that they are not unbiased and that there are more unbiased sources, or let's say, I don't know,
you know what?
I don't know if that's true, but what I will say is that he see, the problem is that it's been a while, so I'm struggling to remember, and even looking at the script, I don't have his clips here, whereas my video about the subject, like I just remember it was pretty sweet ponage. Like it looked over it, and I thought, my work here. He looked over his creation, and he found it to be good. But I mean, like, the best thing for me was when, about 3 or 4 times, Kevin made a claim that he strawmanned me, but he included materials that debunked his strawman within his own fucking video. Like, it was actually quite spectacular. For example, he said that I consider myself to be an academic, and his evidence was me saying that I am aspiring to become an academic.
So, but that's it. That was
Later on, he also included a screenshot where I explicitly said that I'm not an academic. I'm just a student. And then another instance. For example, Kevin claims that I deliberately omit evidence that contradicts my position, but then later on in the video he notes that I acknowledge the research of people who I disagree with.
Well, so is this all is it all just a pissing contest to see who has the greater credentials?
No.
The best part of the video was the Muhammad Ali part at the beginning. I think that was by far the greatest achievement of the video.
This is his new video. Anyway, but basically, I went through and for example, he tried to say that because I'm an anti-theist, therefore I'm just as biased and wrong as any Muslim by my own logic. And I responded, my anti-theism is a conclusion. It's not like an ideology. It's like
and an Orientalist.
Yeah, it was just a really dumb video. Anyone can go watch it on my channel. It
was. Can we get off the Dawah Films now, please?
Because this is all just a prelude, right? Because what Dawah Films has done is he's made another video comparing himself to Muhammad Ali and me to, was it Ernie Tirol? I can't remember, some boxer. Because, right, and Dawah Films spends most of his video, right, complaining about the fact that I call him Kevin instead of Ali, and claim that this is a massive attack on his identity, and that I'm undermining his personality, and that this is a shocking, blah. Like, the reality is I just do it because I like that it niggles him. That's it. That's all there's to it. I have a capricious sense of humor, and I like that it annoys him. That's all. It's not a big attack on it, but it gets better, because then, and this is this actually made me laugh so much. Now, in all my video, all the screenshots I used with Dawah Films were of him, with a little picture of him and his girlfriend in the background, right, which he had in his video. And Dawah Films like, you terrible, terrible person, showing my fiance in the background. You who supposedly stands up for Muslim women's rights. You despicable, horrible, monstrous human being. You know, going on, and like, why would you just degrading her and attacking her? The reason why I used that picture is because when I was making the video, I thought, you know what? Instead of finding screenshots of him looking like an idiot, which is most of the video, because you know when you're doing a video and you freeze it, you always like, you know, you always get silly frames. And so I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to try and give him as little. I mean, I know I was niggling at him, calling him Kevin, but I'll actually, you know, he'll be more likely to actually pay attention to what I'm saying if I include just a screenshot of him looking nice. So I went to the beginning of the video, I went through and tried to find a really nice screenshot, and I found the one where he was actually smiling and looking decent, with one where he was thinking about his wedding, and he's got a little picture of his girlfriend in the background. So I actually tried this time around, I tried to pick a picture of him actually looking happy, right, instead of him looking like an idiot. And no, like the one time where I actually try to find a nice picture of him, he takes it to mean that I'm like attacking his girlfriend now. I'm just the worst kind of human being ever. So, like, he's a fucking joke. Dawah Films is a loser.
Well, people have been called worse things on the internet than their given name, but you know, the whole stepping aside, the whole notion that there is a definitive ladder or rank structure, pecking order of authority, that in and of itself really can't be substantiated. I mean, we try to get guests that have they all claim that they know what they're talking about, and then you know, but if we were to have all of our Muslim guests on a panel together, I'm pretty sure that they would all, to some degree, distance from each other or even denounce each other and say, well, that guy doesn't count because he's from this school, that guy doesn't count because that guy doesn't. So the idea that, I mean, I don't know what color the sky is in his world where there's, well, it's just an example of how every believer thinks that theirs is the only one true interpretation, you know? Every little backwater church is the one true faith, you know?
Oh, I just remembered what the point was that I was bringing that up. Someone had actually asked down below on our Gin and Tonic show, someone requested that we actually get Dawah Films on the Gin and Tonic show as a guest. On our comment wall. And I was going to say, like, considering the kind of just the crap that he says in his videos, just like, what would be the point? Like, it would be like inviting bloody, I don't know, Ahmed the Deer back on. Like, someone who is so heavily wrapped up in this big delusional grand ideology of reforming the world and the fall of the capitalistic nations is crumbling and the new world order of Islam is coming. Let's bring back the gold standard. Yeah, Al-Andalus was a paradise on earth. Oh yeah, you know, like your evil industrial capitalist machines. Like,
yeah, well, the thing is, I can anticipate what the response would be. He would say, well, I'm on a whole level above you guys, so I don't need to dignify anyone. I mean, that seems to be his response to everything. I actually think it would be pretty fun. I actually think it would be really amusing, but it's, yeah, I wouldn't expect that he would accept.
Oh, and something fun just on the side. I've just been doing, you know, in my research, I come across things, and one thing I just recently came across, and this is quite amusing, was all right. So a bit of background. Imam Shafi. Ali, would you like to do the proper pronunciation? Because I can't pronounce it.
Don't worry about it.
Shafi.
Imam Shafi.
This Imam, right? Well, basically, he was the Muslim who invented fiqh. By that I mean he took it from being based upon Roman law and made it based upon the Quran Hadith. That's basically what he did. He made it this new systematic, blah 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 of Quran Hadith as the basis for the Sharia, Islamic law. So he's like a big seminal scholar, right? Mm-hmm. He's a big bloke. And Dawah Films tried to use Shafi'i to prove that Aisha bint Abu Bakr was an adult at the age of 9 mm-hmm. by extrapolating with Baluch and look, Shafi'i said something about age 9, blah blah blah, age 15, blah, some crap. Anyway, and then tried to extrapolate from Islamic law that Aisha would have been 9, or that Islamic law allowed all this kind of crap like that. Anyway, the fun thing is that I just came across an academic source that mentions that according to Imam Ash-Shafi'i, Aisha bint Abu Bakr was prepubescent. She had not yet reached maturity when Muhammad consummated his marriage with her. Imam Ash-Shafi'i.
Well, there you go.
So it just.
I love how that comes up in every single show. I think there's not been one show where Aisha being 9 didn't. Muhammad raping a 9-year-old. It was not mentioned.
Yeah. I think there have been some.
For good reason. I mean, it is a pretty interesting story.
I've learned to avoid it because it's just that's an area that's just too sensitive, and I mean it's very difficult to get to. Okay, for example, if you were a Muslim and you watched this episode where we were being really goofy and had no particular topic, I wouldn't actually blame them if they thought, oh, these guys are just being mean. Of course,
every show.
No. When we have Muslim panelists on, we do our best to be courteous and not just fling poo. That's one area.
It's not flinging poo. It's it's not flinging poo. It's like the scripture that's supposing to be the awesome, perfect, ethical standard for humanity is allowing things that are saliently, demonstrably unethical. Like it's not a poo fling. It's just we're criticizing and debunking the religious framework.
I was referring to the kind of silliness and flippancy that I was. But as far as okay, so let me clarify. What I'm saying is that
jokes.
Yeah,
jokes,
exactly. The jokes at the expense. But as far as just pointing out that there is this evidence and that she was this age, and that obviously that would land you in prison in many places today, in our neck of the woods, it's just those are just cold hard facts. But it's what can you do? I think the vast majority of believers you can talk to would just completely disengage because it's just too sensitive. If you accept that someone you admire raped a child, there really isn't anything much more controversial or incendiary than that accusation. So, like I said, I've learned to just avoid that topic altogether. But yeah, I mean, the evidence is all there.
I don't see why there's such a bias against flinging poo. I mean, flinging poo can be fun sometimes, don't you think? Have you seen chimpanzees flinging poo at each other?
I'm sure they have
fun sometimes. They do, and I think that children would also have a good time flinging poo if parents allowed them.
But Atheismo, what evidence are you talking about?
I'm talking about what Klingschor was citing, Shafi's statements, the references to her age in the Hadith and so forth. If you accept those sources.
Evidence.
Oh, mind you, Ibn Hanbal.
Yeah.
Ibn Hanbal seems to have been of the view that Aisha had come of age at the time. But I just find it's funny. I mean, I think he was wrong when you would actually examine the sources. But it was just ironic because Dawah Films explicitly used Shafi'i as in trying to debunk me trying to debunk the claim in general, and Shafi'i comes around and bites him on the ass. And there we go. See, I admit evidence that contradicts me, apart from the fact that I don't.
Okay, come on. Anyway.
Well, back to evidence on the prepubescent thing. The Quran specifically mentions the wait period of women who have yet to have had their period.
Yeah.
I think that you can't have any more conclusive evidence that it's at least permitted. Whether or not Muhammad did it, I guess, is another thing. But
No,
the
it was
Quran
amenorrhea.
the Quran strictly says that a girl who has yet to reach the age of having a period has to wait. I think it's 3 months.
I'll tell you what it is.
After she's been divorced, before she can remarry.
Yeah, but not everybody accepts it. If you go and discuss this with apologists, they will say, no, this is fabricated. It just means anyone having their period, which means it can be somebody who's ill, it can be somebody who never had this, it can be this, it can be this, it can be all sorts of things.
Those who do not anymore and those who have yet to.
Yeah.
No, they don't see the word yet.
I can give you the text itself, right? So you've got Surah 2 verse 228, which says that you need an iddah, you need a waiting period after you divorce someone, obviously to make sure that they're not, pregnant with a kid, because that can change things. Then Surah 33 verse 45, I think, says that explicitly says that there is no iddah if you have not consummated the marriage, because obviously the purpose of the iddah is to make sure that you're not pregnant. So if you haven't consummated the marriage, there's no need to, if you haven't had sex. So consummation explicitly obviously refers to sex, and you don't need an iddah, and so the fact that you have an iddah automatically stipulates that you have had sex, which is why you would need an iddah in the first place. Then we have Surah 65 verse 4, which talks about, what about people who don't, because the waiting period, an iddah, is defined as 3 menstrual cycles. And then they're like, wait, some women don't menstruate. And it mentions the 3 categories of people who don't menstruate. And there are those who have given up hope of menstruation. How do you say this? Elai Yaizna Mina El Mahidi.
You'd be able to pronounce it correctly if you were a true Islamic scholar, which you're clearly
not.
not.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just not.
Okay. How about no? We need to schedule. We need to schedule a one-on-one between yourself and Dawah.
What for? What would be the point?
Because
it would be a waste of time, and you would be wasting your audience's time. You wouldn't get anywhere, and it would be disastrous. Because
I'll tell you why, Klingschor, because I've never really liked you, and I just want to see you suffer.
Well, I'm glad it's all out in the open now.
Well, I mean, the thing is, Ali was saying that Dawah was supporting the idea of the near, I don't want to say the immutability of the 2 top, the Sahih collections, but he was saying that he was extolling that these are the pinnacle of the study on the subject, or something like that. And let me tell you, out of every guest we've had, every Muslim guest we've ever had on the show, whether it be just a caller or a panelist, they've all tapped out. They've all tapped out once I started reading Bukhari or Muslim. They've all tapped out. They've all said, okay, there's no way I'm going to put my name to that one. There's always some point where they say, okay, well, not that one. I mean, with our most recent panelist, really nice guy. I really appreciated him as a person, but he I said at one point, well, what about the one where it says that Adam was 100 feet tall? And you could see
60 cubits.
Right. I mean, and you could see that there was some embarrassment there. You know what I mean? It's like he's trying to say, okay, well, it's humans. Islam is compatible with evolution. It's just a matter of getting the education out there. But it just so happens that Adam and Eve didn't evolve from apes as we know them. They evolved from King Kong, giant 100-foot apes, and then they got shorter as they became more sapient, or something like that. I mean, no. I think that every single Muslim on the planet would eventually tap out if you just started at Bukhari and just started reading. Sooner or later, they'd say, okay, maybe one inauthentic hadith sneaked in there, because, I mean, okay, I actually, one time, I shouldn't tell you guys this, but one time, Dawah Films was having
this time at band camp.
Yeah, this one time at Bandit Camp, Dawah Films was having a blog TV, and Thunderfoot and I went in there to troll him, and it was so hilarious because Thunderfoot got kicked out like just almost right away for being an ass, and then I started, you know.
Were you as yourselves? Like,
No. But anyway, so, and that was the funniest thing. He and I were just laughing about it because he got booted right away, and T-Foot was being obnoxious. So I mean anybody would have kicked him, but I started sort of prodding him about serious things, and Dawah said that a hadith from Sahih Muslim was inauthentic, and at that point I just started. I couldn't believe it. How do you deal with that? He's claiming that he's at the. You know, he knows so much, and he says it's inauthentic, and then I just couldn't take it seriously after that. I just started screwing with him. But like I said, there's so much weird stuff in those, and there's so much you know, controversial or outright offensive content. I can't imagine that any but the looniest of fundamentalists would back it all up. You know, if you just started reading. I think that sooner or later someone would say, okay, yeah, that can't be. That can't be. I mean, nobody must read those, or they must assume that we don't. I mean, I remember when I first started, you know, reading about this stuff and engaging in dialogue with believers, and they would say, oh yeah, well, have you read the Hadith? And they wouldn't. You know, I don't mean to characterize them all so negatively, but you know, it's not. Like, oh well, you know, have you happened to read this book? You know, like you and I, you know, even the standoffish comparison that you and Ali were involved in before. You know, you're sincere. You know, are you familiar with this text? But when a lot of Muslims would ask me, you know, have you read the Hadith? They're just assuming that I haven't, hoping that I haven't, and hoping that that can kind of disqualify me. But really, they should never have told any non-Muslim that these books existed, because they're just so damaging to the case that they're trying to make.
The phenomenon to which you're referring is like kicking the ball out of the fence.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I haven't read this book, and I assume you won't either. You know, but I'm actually really glad that I read Bukhari. I mean, that Bukhari was really one of the most entertaining books. It's right up there with Hitchhiker's Guide. I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe what I was reading. I laughed so hard and so long at that, and it's not a very nice thing to say, but it's true. I mean, there's just, you know what I mean? There are a lot of good books. Only the Hitchhiker's Guide and Sahih Bukhari actually had me laughing out loud, and then being very self-conscious about people around me wondering what was in the book that I was laughing at. You know what I mean? That's the only book that gave it. Only two books that ever got just involuntary laughter from me. Okay, so I think we've gone on long enough. Closing comments from anyone on the pointless show with no topic, starting with Stop Spamming?
Okay, I think it's more fun if we don't have a topic and we just go on and rant and just go silly, because it's a lot more fun and it gives everybody an opportunity to voice their opinion, and people who call in are not petrified or angry or in any way limited in what they say. So I like these things.
Yeah, I can take it or leave this format. I'm as a broadcaster, I'm very aware of if we have any dead time, and sometimes if we're scrambling for something to talk about, I feel a bit self-conscious about it. But I mean, I had fun today. But our next show is going to be about the Crusades, and it's going to be. I mean, callers again can ask whatever they like, or you know.
You sure you want to say that? I mean, Clay might have a
Exactly.
funeral to go to or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'll definitely be able to. I mean, the only issue with this show was that I wasn't sure if I'd be able to access the internet, the timing, all this kind of stuff like that. But yeah, no, next 2 weeks from now, Crusades. I'm ready. I've got heaps of materials prepared. It's going to be actually a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun myths about, misconceptions about the Crusades that we're going to have a lot of fun destroying. Be there. Oh, and if you look up on the banner, dear viewers, if this is live, you can see our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. And there's also a Twitter page that you can find via the Facebook and the YouTube. So check us out, subscribe, and we're on iTunes as well. Links all on the YouTube channel.
Ali, closing comments? Any? How's your associate in Kuwait doing? Is there any word?
No, I mean there are some rumors, but we don't really know very much. I'm watching over the Kuwaiti Justice Department's website, and it seems like the trial is still set for the 28th. So not much more, but if still people go on to the Facebook page and sign the petition and all that stuff. That's still needed. So. I can't post anything in any chat, so if somebody can post it, that would be good.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm in Massachusetts and I'm no power. I'm on my phone, so. But yeah, I think that this show was. Well, I think there have been better shows. It's good nonetheless. I enjoyed having Stopspamming on. So
yeah, it was good to have you back.
Not so much Klingschor. I was kind of hoping he really couldn't make it today.
Oh, the feeling was actually mutual.
I'm just kidding.
DPR, any comments before we go?
Yes, I just want to say that most people criticize me for talking too much. I think I've been fairly quiet, and I think everyone knows the reason why. All you need to do to shut me up is just have Klingschor on video, and I'm just speechless. It takes my breath away. But it's been a huge pleasure.
My restraining order will be arriving soon in the mail.
Yeah. Well,
but on a more serious note, Ali, I did include in the video on the last Magic Sandwich Show links to the Facebook page that you're referring to, and I'm sure that Almighty, whoever, excuse me, or whoever uploads it will post the link again. But I encourage everyone, please, to support. I think it's a free Ben Baz, isn't it? The name of the page. Go there and please support him. It's outrageous. This is someone who I suspect most of you know, but for those that don't, arrested for blasphemy, facing trial in Kuwait, I think at the end of this month. Absolutely disgraceful. But there we go. Please support the campaign.
That's right. The religion of peace is locking people up for blasphemy.
So. Well, it says religion of peace. I won't joke about it. I won't joke about it. We said peace. We didn't say anything about, arbitrary detention. There's nothing about. It's like the whole just and merciful thing. Being peaceful doesn't mean we can't lock people up. We lock them up peacefully.
Well, the Parliament has passed a law authorizing death penalty for blasphemy. The Emir hasn't signed off on it yet, but it is there, and it has passed twice actually in the last year that upped the penalty to death for blasphemy. And the last time the Emir vetoed it, and he hasn't done so this time. He hasn't signed it either.
This is in Kuwait?
But, yeah, in Kuwait. So, death penalty for blasphemy. That doesn't sound like peace to me.
Yeah. Yeah. What can you do? What can you do? All right,
anyway,
well...
Considering that it was going to be Atheismo and me only today, I think it turned out quite well.
Anyway, thank you, everyone, for attending this historic occasion, an episode of the Gin and Tonic that is under 3 or 4 or 5 hours. Take care. We'll see you all again in 2 weeks. So